I bought her a diamond necklace for our anniversary, but all I got in return was a girls' trip and a blocked phone. It wasn't just the fact she was gone on a weekend that was supposed to be ours. It was the cold indifference in her voice when I finally did hear from her, mixed with the shock of seeing my number suddenly blocked. That was the moment I knew something had fundamentally broken. Our anniversaries used to be sacred. 10 years we'd been together, 7 married, and every single year we'd made a point of celebrating. Sometimes it was a big trip, sometimes a quiet dinner at home, but it was always toss. It was a time to reconnect, to remember why we fell in love. This year, it felt like she'd actively chosen to forget. Anna and I had built a good life. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and navigated our 20s and early 30s side by side. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but there was always a foundational trust, a shared history that felt unbreakable. We balanced each other out. I was the steady, pragmatic one. She was the spontaneous, creative spirit. Or at least, that's how it used to be. Over the last few months, though, I'd noticed a shift. Nothing I could put my finger on, not at first. Just small things. Her phone became an extension of her hand. Always face down. Always muted. She'd disappear into another room to take calls or spend longer than usual scrolling through social media. When I'd ask her about her day, her answers felt abbreviated. Less detail, more surface. I tried to chalk it up to stress at work, or maybe just a phase. I'm not a jealous guy, and I trust easily, so I just figured she needed a little space. Then came the girls' trip announcement. It wasn't the trip itself that bothered me. Anna loved getting away with her friends, and I encouraged it. It was the timing. A 3-day weekend, our 10th anniversary, and she presented it not as a question, but a done deal. Sarah and Jessica and I are going to Asheville for a long weekend, she'd said, scrolling through her phone. It's perfect, we got a great deal on an Airbnb. There was no mention of our anniversary, no acknowledgement of the date. I paused, coffee cup halfway to my mouth. That's our anniversary weekend, Anna. I tried to keep my voice neutral, but a knot was already forming in my stomach. She looked up, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. Oh, right. Well, it was the only weekend that worked for everyone. We can celebrate when I get back, can't we? Her tone suggested I was being unreasonable for even bringing it up. It felt like a punch to the gut, but I swallowed it down. I didn't want to start an argument. Okay, I said, we can do that. I told myself she just needed a break, that she wasn't intentionally trying to hurt me. Still, I tried to make it special before she left. I booked a reservation at her favorite restaurant for the night before the trip. I had the necklace delivered. She accepted the gifts, thanked me, gave me a quick kiss. But there was a distraction in her eyes, a kind of restlessness. Her phone buzzed constantly through dinner, and she kept checking it, even apologizing, saying it was just the girls' planning. It didn't feel like she was fully there with me. The anniversary itself, she said, would be spent driving and settling in. The morning of her departure, she was a whirlwind. Her suitcase was packed by the door. She was on a call with Sarah, laughing loudly. She pecked me on the cheek, told me she loved me, and then she was out the door. The house felt suddenly quiet, almost too quiet. I told myself it was just because I missed her already, a normal feeling. I sent her a text a few hours later. Hey, safe travels. Thinking of you. Happy anniversary, my love. I waited. And waited. Finally, a short reply came through. Thanks. Landed. We'll call later. No, happy anniversary. Back. No emojis. Just cold. I told myself she was busy, that she'd explain later. The first day of our anniversary came and went, with only sparse, almost impersonal messages from her. Having fun, she'd text. Dinner was good. Never a question about my day, never anything intimate. I found myself checking my phone every 5 minutes, my anxiety building. I tried to push it down, to be understanding. Maybe she was just completely immersed in her friends, enjoying her escape. Around dinner time, I decided to call. It was our anniversary after all. Maybe she just needed a reminder, a little push to connect. I let it ring. No answer. I tried again a few minutes later. Straight to voicemail. A little worried now, I texted her, "Everything okay?" Tried calling. No response. An hour passed. Then two. My mind started to race. Was she mad at me? Did something happen? Finally, around 10 p.m., I tried calling one last time, and that's when it hit me. The phone didn't ring. It went straight to voicemail with a message saying the subscriber was unavailable. I tried again, just to be sure. Same message. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. She'd blocked me, on our anniversary, while she was away on a girls' trip. My heart hammered against my ribs. Blocked. I stared at my phone, the screen suddenly blinding. This wasn't just being busy, this wasn't just being distant. This was intentional. This was a deliberate cutoff. Tears welled up, hot and angry. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe her phone was acting up. Maybe she accidentally hit a button. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. No one accidentally blocks their husband for hours, especially not when he's trying to reach them on their anniversary. The thought was absurd. I spent the rest of the night in a haze of confusion and betrayal. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus. I replayed our last few weeks, looking for a sign, a clue I'd missed. Nothing made sense. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was Anna. "Hey, sorry, my phone was dead. Just charging it now. We had a late night." No mention of the blocked calls. No apology for the silence. I typed back, "Dead." My calls were going straight to voicemail. It looked like I was blocked. Her response came quickly, almost dismissively. "Oh, weird. Must have been a network thing. Anyway, we're heading out for brunch now." The tone was flat, clipped. She was annoyed. Annoyed that I'd even brought it up. The rest of the weekend was a blur of anxiety for me. Her texts were sporadic, brief, and never emotional. I felt like I was messaging a stranger, not my wife of 7 years. The per trip felt like a shield, an excuse for something I couldn't name. The connection we always had, that easy, loving banter, was completely gone. In its place was a chasm of silence and unanswered questions. When her car finally pulled into the driveway late Sunday afternoon, I was a coiled spring of nerves and anticipation. I wanted to hug her, to feel that familiar warmth, to reassure myself that everything was okay, that this was all just a misunderstanding. But as she stepped out of the car, her smile felt forced. Her eyes darted away from mine. She looked tired, yes, but also guarded. She walked past me, dropped her bag by the door, and went straight to the kitchen for a glass of water. "Hey," she said, her voice thin. "Rough drive." She still hadn't really looked at me. It was like she was trying to avoid my gaze, to avoid the question that was undoubtedly in my eyes. The space between us, which used to be filled with laughter and easy comfort, now felt charged with an unspoken tension. The diamond necklace was still in its box, unworn and suddenly, utterly meaningless. I knew then that the girls' trip wasn't just about a weekend away. It was a line drawn in the sand. Something was profoundly, terribly wrong. Anna's return didn't bring the relief I'd hoped for. The air in the house stayed thick with an unspoken tension, a silence that felt heavier than any argument. She was physically present, moving through our familiar routines, but emotionally, she was miles away. Her eyes, which used to meet mine with easy affection, now darted away whenever I tried to catch them, or settled on her phone screen with an intensity she never showed me. That phone became a constant, unsettling presence. It was always nearby, always face down. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, to the kitchen for a glass of water, even if she was only gone for a minute. Before, her phone would often be left charging on the counter, forgotten. Now it was an extension of her, a fortress she carried everywhere. If it buzzed, she'd snatch it up, glance at the screen, and then quickly mute it or tuck it away, sometimes with a faint, almost imperceptible smile that faded before I could even register it. I tried in those first few days to talk about the trip, to bridge the chasm that had opened between us. "So, how was Asheville, really?" I asked one evening, trying to sound casual, offering to make her a drink. She shrugged, stirring her wine. It was fine. You know, girls, trip stuff, shopping, a little sightseeing. Her answers were clipped, devoid of the usual animated details she'd share after even a short weekend away. She used to recount every funny mishap, every interesting shop, every good meal. Now it was just fine. I pushed gently, recalling some of the places she'd mentioned before she left. Did you guys get to the Biltmore? I know you always wanted to see that. She paused, took a sip of wine. Oh yeah, for a bit. It was crowded. We mostly just hung out. The Biltmore estate was a major attraction, a highlight for anyone visiting Asheville, especially for her. Her dismissal of it felt off. It felt like she was reading from a script, and a poorly rehearsed one at that. A seed of doubt, which had been planted the moment she decided to ignore our anniversary, began to sprout. I found myself replaying our conversations from before and during her trip, searching for clues, for inconsistencies. Her annoyance when I called, her quick texts, the sudden blocking of my calls, it all started to make less sense in retrospect. She'd blamed it on a network issue. But we lived in a digital age, and her signal had always been strong, even in rural areas. Then, about a week after she returned, I ran into Sarah, one of the friends who supposedly went on the trip with Anna. It was at our usual coffee shop, a place we both frequented. Sarah was waiting in line, and when she saw me, her smile faltered. Her eyes, usually so direct and friendly, flitted away, almost like she was caught doing something wrong. "Hey, Mark," she said, her voice a little too high, a little too quick. "Hey, Sarah, how's it going?" I asked, trying to be normal, but my senses were on high alert. "How was the trip? Anna said it was good." Sarah stammered slightly. "Oh yeah, it was. It was fun, you know, a good time." She shifted her weight, glanced towards the door. "Actually, I'm super late for something. Gotta run. It was good seeing you, Mark." She practically fled, leaving her coffee behind, a half-formed excuse hanging in the air. Her reaction was so out of character, so visibly uncomfortable that it was impossible to ignore. My gut twisted. Was I imagining things? Was I just paranoid because of the anniversary snub? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Sarah was just having a bad day. Maybe Anna just wasn't good at recounting details. But the coldness, the guarded phone, the sudden flight of a friend who usually loved to chat, it was building into a chorus of discord that I couldn't silence. I started to observe Anna more closely, almost without meaning to. One evening, as she got ready for bed, I caught a faint scent on her sweater. Not her usual perfume, or even Jessica's or Sarah's. It was a subtle, unfamiliar cologne, masculine, definitely not mine. I leaned in, pretending to hug her, taking a deeper breath. It was definitely there, faint but distinct, lingering on the fabric. My stomach clenched. I didn't say anything, didn't want to tip her off. I just filed it away, another unsettling piece in a growing puzzle. Our interactions became stilted, polite, but devoid of any real intimacy. I still tried to initiate conversation, to touch her hand, to seek some sign of the woman I married, but she was like a ghost, transparent and untouchable. Her deflections were sharper now, her irritation more palpable if I pressed her on anything related to the trip. "Why are you so obsessed with it?" she snapped once. It was just a weekend away. Just a weekend away, on our 10th anniversary. The phrase hung in the air, a cruel mockery of everything I thought we had built. I started checking my own phone more, scrolling through our old pictures, trying to find the Anna I knew. The one who would have been thrilled with the necklace, the one who would have planned something special for our milestone. It felt like a lifetime ago. My suspicion was no longer a vague uneasiness. It was a living, breathing thing, gnawing at me, demanding answers. I found myself lying awake at night, running through scenarios, trying to decide what the next step should be. I hated myself for thinking it, for even considering it, but the possibility of another person, another presence, was becoming harder and harder to deny. One morning, the monthly credit card statement arrived. We shared an account for household expenses and travel, and I usually just glanced over it. But this month, my eyes were drawn to a specific entry from the weekend of her trip. A charge for a high-end restaurant in Asheville, one I knew was renowned for its romantic atmosphere and tasting menus. The amount was significant, enough for a lavish dinner for two. And the date? The night of our anniversary. It wasn't the kind of place you went with the girls after a day of shopping. It was the kind of place you went for a very special, intimate occasion. My breath hitched. It was just a name and a number on a piece of paper, but in that moment, it felt like a punch to the gut, a cold, hard confirmation that her girls' trip was a carefully constructed lie. The restaurant charge was a knife twisting in a wound I hadn't even realized was that deep. It wasn't just a number, it was an echo of betrayal. My hands trembled as I put the statement down, the paper feeling heavy and cold. Anna had dismissed our anniversary, called the trip a casual getaway, and then this. A romantic dinner for two, in a city known for its romantic retreats, on the exact night we should have been celebrating a decade together. It solidified the gnawing doubt into a sharp, painful certainty that something was profoundly wrong. I tried to talk to her again that evening. I brought up the trip, asking if she'd enjoyed any particular restaurants. She gave me a blank stare, mentioned some casual cafe, and quickly changed the subject to a work email. Her phone was, as always, face down beside her. I felt like I was living with a stranger. The distance between us wasn't just physical. It was a chasm of silence and unspoken truths. The cologne I'd noticed on her sweater lingered faintly in my memory, a ghost of an aroma that now screamed of another presence. My investigation began in earnest, though it felt more like a desperate scavenger hunt for scraps of truth. I didn't want to become a detective in my own home, but the alternative was living in this suffocating fog of unknowing, and I couldn't do it. I started by subtly checking her car. It was clean, as always, but I noticed the passenger seat adjustment was slightly off from where I usually left it, and there was a faint, earthy scent, like a specific type of incense, or even a man's grooming product, different from her usual fragrances. It was a minuscule detail, something I'd have dismissed a month ago, but now it felt like a blaring siren. Next, I turned to our shared computer. Anna wasn't usually one to clear her browser history, but after the trip, it was pristine. Too clean. It was like she'd wiped away all traces of the past week. I checked our shared cloud storage, thinking maybe she'd uploaded photos she hadn't shown me. Nothing. My heart sank with each empty folder. It wasn't the absence of evidence that struck me as odd, but the active removal of it. That spoke volumes. The hardest part was confronting Sarah, Anna's friend. I knew she was complicit, or at least aware. I accidentally ran into her at the grocery store a few days later. She seemed to shrink when she saw me, her smile faltering. I tried to be casual. "Hey Sarah, how was Asheville? Anna said you guys had a great time." Her eyes darted around, avoiding mine. "Oh, it was fine, just a quick break." Her voice was high, strained. I pressed a little. "Anna mentioned that great restaurant, the one with the tasting menu? Did you guys check that out?" I watched her face carefully. A flicker of panic. A subtle stiffening. "Oh no, we didn't get to that one. Too busy seeing the sights, She stammered, pulling her grocery cart away, muttering about needing to find something specific. She practically fled the aisle. Her behavior was a confirmation in itself. Sarah, normally so open and friendly, was clearly hiding something. Her inability to lie smoothly, her obvious discomfort. It all screamed that she knew Anna's story wasn't true. Back home, Anna's secrecy around her phone became unbearable. It was always with her, always muted, always face down. If I walked into the room, she'd angle it away from me. If a notification came through, she'd pick it up immediately, glance at it, and then dismissively set it down without opening it, as if to show me it was nothing important. But the speed of her reaction, the way her thumb hovered over the screen, told a different story. I started noticing her step away to take calls, speaking in hushed tones, or just declining them with a quick, nervous glance around. The casualness was gone, replaced by calculated movements. I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, replaying every interaction, every dismissed comment, every moment of her coldness. I was exhausted, my work suffered, and my appetite vanished. I felt like I was losing my mind, caught in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Yet, a part of me, the desperate, loving part, still hoped there was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a logical explanation for all this. Maybe she was planning a surprise for me. A secret anniversary gift, and all this secrecy was just misdirection? I clung to that sliver of hope, even as every fiber of my being told me it was a delusion. The credit card statement was still on the counter, the entry for The Gilded Fork, Asheville, a dark stain on the page. I decided to dig deeper. I logged into our online banking portal. Our shared card had a feature allowing you to view more details on transactions. I clicked on the restaurant charge and it expanded, showing the merchant's address, the exact time of purchase, and a generic merchant category code. Nothing more. But as I scrolled through the other transactions from that weekend, a new line item caught my eye. It was for a different establishment in Asheville, a boutique hotel called the Willow Creek Inn. The charge was substantial, almost double the restaurant bill, and it was dated for the night of our anniversary too. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't a standard hotel chain. I knew about Willow Creek Inn. It was a high-end, exclusive place, known for its secluded cabins and romantic packages, often booked by couples looking for a special getaway. It certainly wasn't the kind of place a girls' trip group would casually stay. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the mouse. I clicked on the transaction, but it gave me no further details, just the name and the amount. I wrote down the hotel's name and its phone number, which I quickly found online. My plan was risky, but I had to know. I waited until Anna was out, running an errand she'd vaguely mentioned. My palms were sweating as I dialed. "Hello, Willow Creek Inn. How may I help you?" a pleasant voice answered. I cleared my throat, trying to sound calm, confident. "Yes. Hello. I believe my wife, Anna, last name, stayed with you a few nights ago. I'm trying to retrieve some booking details. She mentioned there might have been a special package included, and I'm trying to confirm it for a gift I'm planning. It was a clumsy lie, but I hoped it would work." There was a pause as the receptionist typed, "Let me check for you, sir. Could you confirm the dates of stay?" I gave her the anniversary weekend dates, more typing. "Ah, yes. I see a reservation under an Anna, last name, for a 2-night stay, checking in on anniversary date. It was for one of our premium suites." My breath caught. "A suite?" "And yes," the voice continued, "it was indeed booked with our romantic escape package. That includes a complimentary bottle of champagne, a couple's, massage credit, and late checkout." My world tilted. A premium suite, a romantic escape package, couples, massage, all under Anna's name, for 2 nights, encompassing our anniversary. It wasn't a girls' trip. It wasn't a mistake. It was a planned, intimate getaway. The receptionist, oblivious to the earthquake she'd just triggered in my life, asked, "Is there anything else I can help you with, sir?" I could barely choke out a "no thank you" before hanging up, my hand trembling so hard I almost crushed my phone. The line went dead, but the deafening silence that followed was far worse. There was no longer any room for doubt, no shred of hope left. Anna hadn't just forgotten our anniversary. She had spent it creating new memories with someone else, under a carefully constructed veil of lies. The deafening silence after I hung up from the Willow Creek Inn reception was far worse than any noise. The receiver felt heavy, a cold stone in my hand. My world wasn't just tilted, it had shattered, and I was standing in the debris. Anna hadn't just forgotten our anniversary. She had meticulously orchestrated a lie, using our milestone to spend intimate time with someone else. A premium suite, a romantic escape package, couples, massage. It wasn't a girls' trip. It was a planned, intimate getaway. I didn't know how long I sat there, the phone still clutched in my hand, staring at nothing. Every memory, every shared laugh, every quiet evening, every moment of what I thought was our strong, comfortable marriage replayed in my mind, tainted by this new, horrifying knowledge. Was it all a performance? Had she always been capable of this? My stomach churned, a knot of pure betrayal tightening with each breath. The silence of the house pressed in, a suffocating blanket. I had to confront her. But how? What words could even capture the magnitude of this deception? The hours until Anna returned home stretched into an eternity. I tried to prepare, to rehearse, but every scenario felt insufficient, too dramatic, or not dramatic enough. My heart pounded relentlessly, a desperate drum against my ribs. I felt cold, then hot, then numb. The man who had walked into that office this morning, hoping for a simple explanation, a misunderstanding, was gone. In his place was someone hollowed out, filled with a cold certainty. I just wanted it over. I wanted the truth, raw and ugly, so I could stop the gnawing uncertainty. When I heard her car pull into the driveway, the sound was like a thunderclap. My muscles tensed. I heard her key in the lock, the familiar click, the rustle of her coat as she came in. She called out a cheerful, "Honey, I'm home," as if nothing was amiss, as if the last few days hadn't been an emotional war zone for me. My blood ran cold at the normalcy of it. She walked into the living room, purse slung over her shoulder, a small smile on her face. Her eyes, still guarded, met mine. Her smile faltered slightly. "Hey," she said, her voice a little too light. "Rough day?" She started to move towards the kitchen, as if to put her things away, to create distance. "Anna," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though it felt like gravel in my throat. She stopped, her back to me. "We need to talk." She turned slowly, her expression already hardening, a familiar defensiveness flickering in her eyes. "About what, Mark? The anniversary again?" "I told you I'm sorry. I messed up. Can we just move past it?" She tried to sound exasperated, but there was a tremor in her voice I hadn't heard before. "It's not about you messing up, Anna," I stated, my gaze unwavering. I picked up the printed credit card statements from the coffee table. "It's about the lies." I placed the printouts on the table, facing her, the Gilded Fork, Willow Creek Inn. Her eyes flicked down to the papers. For a split second I saw pure panic. Her face drained of color. Then, a mask of anger slammed into place. "What is this, Mark? Are you going through my things? Are you spying on me?" Her voice rose, laced with indignation. "How could you?" "How could?" I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping me. "Anna, you booked a premium suite at the Willow Creek Inn in Asheville for 2 nights over our anniversary. A romantic escape, package with champagne and couples, massages. You had dinner for 2 at the Gilded Fork on our anniversary night, all on our shared card, and you called it a girls' trip with Sarah and Jessica." My voice broke on Sarah and Jessica, the hypocrisy stinging. "Don't you dare try to turn this around on me." She stared at the papers, then at me, her anger deflated, replaced by a hollow desperation. She tried one more time. It was a mistake, Mark. I wasn't thinking, But the words died in her throat. There was no plausible lie left. The evidence was too overwhelming. The specifics I'd laid out made it impossible to deny. Her shoulders slumped. The defiance drained out of her, leaving her looking small and defeated. She finally met my gaze, and I saw tears welling up in her eyes, not of remorse, but of being caught. "Okay, Mark," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Okay, you know." "Know what, Anna?" I pressed, every fiber of my being screaming for the full, painful truth. "Know that you lied, or know who you were with?" She hesitated, biting her lip. Then, in a rush, she admitted it. "It was Michael, from work. It started a few months ago. It wasn't supposed to happen, Mark. It just did." Michael, a name I vaguely recognized, someone she'd mentioned in passing. A few months ago. The anniversary trip was a planned rendezvous, not a spontaneous slip. My mind reeled. A few months? So you've been lying to me for months? And you spent our 10th anniversary with him? The words were like acid, burning my tongue. She started to cry, real sobs this time, her hands covering her face. I'm so sorry, Mark. I didn't want to hurt you. I don't know what happened. I felt so disconnected. And he paid attention. Paid attention? I scoffed, a wave of disgust washing over me. While you were actively planning to spend our anniversary with him? Did he pay attention when you were blocking my calls? Did he know you told me it was a girls' trip? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, he didn't know the specifics. He just thought I was away for the weekend. I told him my husband was out of town, working. The depth of the deception, the elaborate layers of lies, choked me. Not just to me, but to him too. It was a complete fabrication of her life. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow. 10 years, 7 years married. All of it felt like a sham. The comfort, the stability, the trust, it had all been a fragile illusion. Get out, Anna, I said, the words coming out in a guttural whisper I barely recognized as my own. Just get out. She looked up, startled, her sobs momentarily stopping. Mark, no, please. We can fix this. I'm so sorry. I love you. The word love felt like a knife twisting in the wound. Don't you dare say that to me. I snapped, my voice finally cracking. Love doesn't do this, Anna. Love doesn't lie for months. Love doesn't spend a romantic anniversary with someone else and then come home and act like nothing happened. I gestured wildly at the door. Take whatever you need for tonight. I can't look at you right now. Her face crumbled completely. She didn't argue further. She simply turned, numbly walked to the bedroom, and within minutes emerged with a small overnight bag. She didn't look at me as she passed, her head down, her shoulders still shaking with silent sobs. The front door clicked shut behind her, and the house was silent again. This time, it wasn't the silence of suspicion, but the deafening roar of devastation. I sank onto the couch, the credit card statements still scattered on the coffee table like fallen leaves after a storm. It was over. The marriage I had cherished, the future I had envisioned, it was all gone, evaporated in a cloud of lies and deceit. The anniversary that was supposed to mark a decade of our life together had instead become the brutal, definitive end. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or how I would even begin to pick up the pieces. All I knew was that the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, had vanished, replaced by a stranger who had shattered everything we had built. The pain was immense, a physical ache that settled deep in my bones. But beneath it, a tiny, chilling sense of clarity began to form. At least now, I knew. The uncertainty was gone, replaced by a cold, hard truth. And with that truth, there was an unexpected, albeit agonizing, freedom.